I always like to create an environment where people feel comfortable to ask questions. You don't always know what you don't know. You may not have it all figured out today, and that's okay. Taking one step at a time, those glimmers become a consistent light. It all finally begins to click. Each and every moment that you experience is shaping the person you are in this life to be.
Sometimes our pain points go all the way back to childhood.
What if I allowed myself to imagine a life that was more spacious and expansive than the one I'm living?
What if I don't have to live the same way that everyone else is living?
When you are authentic, your energy changes and the people around you change. It's just like doors just start opening. You're like, well, wait, how did this happen? How did this happen? How did this happen? You're showing up completely different.
And often it does require healing and going in some uncomfortable spaces before we can truly flourish.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for Let's Chat. My name is Shayla Reeves, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that likely affected many people over the course of the last year. The pandemic maybe led to cut hours, maybe lost jobs, and maybe you're in a position where that thing that you've been sitting on for so many years, maybe you're saying, okay, maybe I have this window to go try that. Or maybe just life circumstances are such that you are looking to change careers and try that new thing. Well, we've got a couple of ladies here that are going to talk about their experiences changing careers, some before the pandemic, some kind of ushered along because of the pandemic. And then we also have Dr. Zakiyah Robbins Mcneil, who will join us in just a moment as well to kind of give some actionable tips and steps that you can do if you're looking to change careers, but maybe you can't do it all at once, but maybe you can kind of make some small steps along the way to set yourself up for success. So I'm going to bring each one of them up right now. We'll go ahead and start with Dr. Zakiyah Robbins Mcneil. She is an accountability coach, a professor, an author, a lady who wears many hats, but I enjoy having her here to provide some insight and some actionable steps that you can use to move forward in whatever path or journey you might be on and trying to get to that next level. We also have Melissa Jones. She is a Tony nominated Broadway producer, and certainly an exciting story to share. She recently had a birthday too. Belated happy birthday to you, Melissa. And I look forward to hearing your story as well. And last but not least, the lovely Amanda Jacobson. Thank you so much for joining me. Amanda and I met, shared love of crafting. So, but she is a super dynamic individual, and I look forward to her sharing her journey, her experience to becoming a career changer. But now she's a super boss, carving out her own lane, creating her own way, pursuing her own passions, and doing it her own way. So I love it. I'll go ahead and start with you, Amanda. If you could tell people a little bit about you. We'll take a minute for each of you so that everyone can kind of get to know you, and then we'll launch into the conversation from there.
Yeah, sure. My name is Amanda. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to engage in this conversation with all of you brilliant people today. Shayla, you did a great job kind of talking me up, maybe like too much. But I am a podcast co-host, and I had my background, honestly, in hospitality. I was working in the restaurant industry. I did not follow a traditional educational path after high school, which is the gentle way of saying I did not go to college. And, thought I was on a path. And then actually a friend of mine who's in this house with me right now had big visions and approached me and another one of our childhood friends with this big vision. And we thought, this sounds kind of crazy, but we can see what happens. And now 4.5 years later, we've been doing this podcast full time, and it's become, the foundation of all of our lives, and it's turned into a career that we never could have imagined. So I'm excited to talk more about that today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amanda. And then Melissa, tell us a little bit about your career as well.
Sure. I'm now a Broadway producer, investor and producer, and making the shift to that was kind of a big transition for me, and I took some risk in doing that. Before that, I spent 20 years in the credit card processing industry, starting like in 99, 2000 during the whole .com craze. And I always had a passion for theater and musical theater, especially. And I was a performer years ago and did kind of continue here and there. But I had an opportunity to become a producer in the show. I had started doing some investing. And then once I became a co-producer, which is Jagged Little Pill, which is currently Tony nominated for the Best Musical in the middle of the pandemic, I also had the opportunity to become a lead producer in the show. And that was also a leap of faith. And that show has been an incredible journey. The show is called Super You. And I will just say that, we were supposed to open in May of 2020 and start our journey to Broadway, off Broadway. Of course, that never happened. And the journey that we have been on since then, and the decisions that we have made that have been very bold decisions to get our brand out into the world and recognize that the music and material was something that people needed right now. We chose to kind of go against some large, advisement from large marketing companies and make our decision to just move forward and take it out there and put the show on the back of pickup trucks. We got news footage. We ended up making a movie and going live, creating a TikTok and going viral many times over, and having thousands of people requesting sheet music. And we just keep growing and growing, and we've still never yet opened the show. So that's the nutshell of where I am in my career today, is a Broadway producer creating theatrical experiences in a time where there is no theater.
Well, that is awesome. And in just a few minutes, we'll show the 45-second clip kind of highlighting how you were able to get your vision to the masses during the pandemic, just so people can kind of get an idea of your trajectory, your path, and the year you've been through. Dr. Z, I'll go ahead and give you a moment to announce, kind of tell us a little bit about who you are as well. And you've been with me for many chats, and I'm excited to have you with us again today.
Yep. Hello, I am Dr. Zakiyah Robbins Mcneil. I actually have just a long history in a career of mental health, going from frontline person all the way up to therapist, even running multi-million-dollar organizations. And now I'm a professor. I've been teaching for about 8 to 10 years, actually, 8 years here in Minnesota. And now I just started venture off doing accountability coaching, because that actually is my love and my passion. I love helping people attain their goals. Like that is just like ultimate. I love it. Like I get so excited when people actually achieve their goals. Like you would think it was me or my family. So that's me in a nutshell. That's the quickest way I can explain my history.
I love it. And it makes such a difference if you're living your passion, because I believe you show up differently in the world. And we've talked about this before. If you're doing something that you truly love, you're showing up in the most authentic way possible, and people respond to that, and you bring in more of those people into your life that sort of grow your passion. So I believe that's so true. I'm going to start with you, Amanda, to tell me a little bit about your story. I remember you had told me when you were graduating from high school, everybody else was talking about where they were going to go to college, what they were going to do next, and you didn't feel that you shared that story to kind of launch into that for us.
Yeah, my co-host and I recently actually had the opportunity to, as alumni from my high school, do kind of a virtual chat with an entrepreneurship class that's now being offered at my high school in Minnetonka, which that class was not available when we were there in the early 2000s, but it's pretty cool that it's available now. And I shared with them a pretty like visceral memory that I have of getting toward graduation, and I was emceeing our graduation ceremony. Like I was very heavily involved in theater, quite well known at my school, and very demanding of everybody's attention. But I did not really get to participate in the celebrations that were happening in our school, where there was like a big board of everybody's senior photo and then talking about where they're going after high school and what colleges they got into and what career paths they wanted to go on. And I had applied for college, but I did not get great grades in high school. And it was not because I'm not smart, but mostly because I was very disinterested in education. And so I just kind of floated a little bit. I started working in restaurants pretty shortly after graduating. And I felt like I really found a fit for myself, for my personality, for just kind of the fast-paced environment. I loved meeting people, and like service felt right and hospitality felt right. And I did that for the better part of 12 years, working at various restaurants around the Twin Cities, making my way in management. And it had become like a salaried, stable career with health insurance and paid time off. And, I managed a staff, and it felt like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then one of my best friends from high school approached me, and she was living abroad at the time and could not work a regular job because of the visa that she had. And she was like, I listen to a lot of podcasts and they're really great, but we're funnier. And I think we can do this. And I've been doing all this research, and we're going to do it, and we're going to start a business, and this is what it's going to be. And my other best friend and co-host and I were like, okay, we have full-time, like more than full-time jobs. We'll see. Okay, I guess we'll try it. And then, now here we are going on 5 years later, and it's grown into this massive thing that maybe one of us had a vision that it could become, but I don't think myself or our other co-host ever imagined it would get this big. But yeah, it's been an unbelievable experience, and it was nice to go talk to these students and say, hey, like, obviously we're not going to tell you college doesn't matter, don't go to college, because that's irresponsible. But it's important to know that there are other things that you can do, and that path is not the only path, and that you don't always know what you're going to love and what you're going to be passionate about when you're 17, 18 years old. And you can try different things, and you can change your mind, and you can take risks. And sometimes you take those big risks and they really pay off.
And sometimes, and Dr. Z, you can talk about this, sometimes people will see the path that everyone else is on, or the course that everyone else is taking, and they judge themselves through that lens, not seeing that they too can find success in a different way, or that success in a different way is possible, like Amanda explained.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing more people do it now. Like the millennials, they are like forging their own path. It's just like, I don't need to go to college to make money or to feel fulfilled. I'm seeing more and more people take gap years to decide whether or not they actually want to go to school. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like right now, we all are dealing with the pandemic. We can't even say like, okay, well, I'm in my own boat, you're in your own boat. Yeah, we might be in our own boat, but this ship called the pandemic, we're all going through this. So to see people like now, I think people are taking stock of what's important, right? So now you have people that are, not really supposed to be traveling more. You have people changing careers. You have people thinking about like, okay, well, maybe I'll go actually teach at a technical school. You have people looking at technical schools now more than going to a 4-year. People may have gotten terminated. People may have, trying to decide what it is they want to do and not pay a lot of money. So I actually love what Amanda was saying. Like, yes, you can do something different. And it's good to show them that you can thrive and you can be successful even if you don't go to college, because people need to know that they can make it, but they have to do something.
Right.
They have to do something. They can't just sit on their butt.
Right.
But you're living proof, and that's so awesome.
Thank you.
And Melissa, sometimes when people, get older, they're afraid to change or they're afraid to try something new. And you had a dream. You always loved theater. You always loved Broadway. Tell us how you found yourself at a crossroads where you said, I'm going to jump into this and really pursue my passion.
Well, I have to say in 2018, I was not really happy with where I was at the time. I'd been with my company for a very long time, and always in my mind, it had been meant to be a means to an end. It was a great entrepreneurial venture in the beginning during the whole .com craze. And I had some amazing, I'm very grateful for all the experiences I got to have traveling the world and doing things, but I was ready to dig in and really I'd invested in a couple of Broadway shows, and I really wanted to be a producer. I had raised some money. I really wanted to, and so I ended up taking like a life coaching or life transformation course. And that's where I really understood that, when you have the desire to want to do something that's very different, especially if there's risk attached, that's an indicator that you should do it. Take the leap, because it's those leaps into something that you feel passionate about and with risk attached to it that makes you start transitioning into becoming that different person that you want to be, or taking on that different experience. Because a lot of times we sit and go, gosh, I really want to, but I've got to weigh, what's the possibility? If I do this, what could this, you sit down and make lists. And instead of just trusting our instincts and knowing that even those risks associated, that's actually something exciting to embrace, and know that if we feel really strongly to do it, we have the ability to do it, even if it seems like we don't know how. That will present itself, and it does when you're really committed to the thing that you want to do. And that's one of the things I found out. So I took the leap of faith of becoming a producer, which was a financial risk at the time. And of the first show I was involved in Jagged Little Pill. And then what ended up happening is I intended to ultimately want to transition from my job and really become a lead producer. And then I had the lead producer opportunity present itself. So I started doing both. And then once the pandemic hit, that decision was made for me, because I lost my corporate job, as well as all the shows went down at the same time. So that required that I sat back and say, okay, now I'm focusing on this. This is it. And there is nothing right now. So what are we going to do? And that's when it got really creative and got very, how are we going to make this happen and think outside the box and create something and continue to build a brand where there is no theater happening right now.
And I'll show the trailer. I'm going to see if I can get this up. Let's see. It's about 45 seconds.
Right. And I'll preface it just as you're working on getting it up. We were supposed to open our show on May 27th. The show Super You over here that I'm the lead producer on here in New York City, everything shut down. And exactly a month later, we put a concert version of the show up on the back of pickup trucks at a drive-in movie theater. And then just all these people came out, these incredible Broadway, our team is amazing. Broadway, Tony-nominated, Tony-winning people came out. This Emmy-winning film crew came out. Most people did it for just to do it because we didn't have a lot of money at the time. And so and they filmed the entire thing, which ultimately ended up turning into a movie, a documentary movie of the whole concert and how it was made, that was aired on Broadway on demand for a few months back in March. And we got tons of press, and Bloomberg News did a great article about us. And this 45-second trailer is just a snippet of that movie trailer that we ultimately put up.
Wonderful. Let's see. I'm going to try my hand at technology here. We'll see if we can get it. All right. Can you all see the screen there?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're going to get a commercial first. 5 seconds of it. Oh.
All right.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what this is. Hold on one second.
It was right there. I saw it.
Yes. Let me see. I'm not sure why it.
Like skip over
Let's see
it.
here. I'm going to try it one more time. It was playing that commercial.
There it is. There it is.
Oh, do you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
I can feel tomorrow's sun just waiting to come out.
I drove 11 and a half hours to be here tonight.
Stronger.
Awesome. That is so special. When you hear that someone drove 11 and a half hours to see something that, is your passion, that you had wanted to do, and the pandemic kind of put you in a space where you had to take a leap of faith, and the faith paid off in a big way. What do you feel when you hear that kind of response?
I mean, it was super exciting. And to even add to that, even since then, we've had, we had a couple of songs we put up on TikTok just from some of our show that we had done previously, our workshops, and people just latched onto them. And we asked people, hey, would you like some free sheet music? And thousands of people said yes, and then started recording themselves singing these songs and posting them on TikTok and Instagram. So now we actually have fan cover Fridays where we repost people who are singing. So something like that, the person who drove 11 and a half hours, and that show, people were just beside themselves to come out and see live theater. But also the music of the show we knew is something really special. It's a women-driven rock musical it's all about inspiration, stepping into your power and your voice. And that music is just so resonant right now. And we just had a concert on Monday night to relaunch the show, and it was unbelievable. The people who showed up that are fans, like become uber fans of the show, know all the words. And we've never opened the show yet. It's just been from this viral outreach and people seeing the movie, people posting the songs on TikTok, and it's so exciting because, and the thing that speaking into this topic here is that had we been fearful and listened to people at the beginning of the pandemic that were saying, no, you have to protect your brand, you don't want to put yourself out there before you're selling tickets, we're like, but who knows? We're in a pandemic, who knows? And we were getting a lot of advice from people that were very fearful because they were all shutting their doors and didn't know what was going to happen. But they were our big agencies and our big people. And so we had to make decisions to do things that was outside of what people were telling us to do. And, now we're so thankful that we listened to our gut and we took those steps because we've got this brand growing, these people following us. And as we move back into being able to go to the theater, we now have a fan base that we can, that we can share this with and continue to grow.
And I don't know if you feel comfortable saying so, but if you feel comfortable saying your age, I'm asking because there are people who are like, oh, I'm too old to pursue my passion, or I'm like, my time has sailed, like I can't do this. You can really do anything you set your mind to if you are willing to do the work and you're passionate about it, regardless of your age. Absolutely.
So I just turned 50 on Tuesday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. first of all, I don't feel old, but I know that, I mean, when I was younger, 50 was definitely old, but it's not. And I think that, I shouted to the rafters, I'm 50. I'm totally excited to turn 50. I feel like there's this awesome new decade in front of me. And there are so many people around me that are like, 50 is awesome. And I'm like, yeah, it is. So there is, and you read so many amazing inspirational stories of women. I say especially women, and men and women, but women especially, because I think we tend to not. I think one of the things that I see now is people really understanding it's all about mindset, and women especially stepping into that. We can do things without having tons of experience, and men have traditionally been more about like just doing things whether they have the experience or not, and women have been a little more cautious about, I need more experience before I do that. And I think now there's this huge movement I see of women just really stepping into their power and their voice and realizing they're taking away a light from the world by not stepping into their light. And so I say, doesn't matter what your age is, if you feel passionate about something, just go for it.
And so just to be clear, you just turned 50, but you've been actually on the trajectory of the Broadway producing and actually getting serious and focused full time for what, a year or two? Or
yeah, only it's been, I became a full-on co-producer in a show in 2018, but it's really been 2019 when it really just started to take off.
So between 48 and 50, you are full on pursuing your passion. And so if anybody out there is watching and you're sitting at home with your passion, like, I don't know if I can do it, take that chance. I mean, look at some realistic step-by-step things that you can do to realize the thing that you want. And Dr. Z, you can mention this a little bit. The path for everyone to pursue whatever it is that they're passionate about, it's going to be different. Maybe, where one person may have the resources to dive all the way in. For someone else, it may be, okay, maybe I save up an extra $5 a month, or maybe I spend maybe I carve out 30 minutes in the day to do this thing that I'm genuinely passionate about. Your path may not look like someone else's to living that fulfilling life. And that's okay. Like, carve out your own lane.
Yeah. So I was like sitting there, I'm like pointing at you. yes, step into your power. And then you're like, you said it. And I'm like, she heard me. That was awesome. That was awesome. Because I always say, when you step into your purpose, the doors will open. Even though you got let go from your job, you were creative enough to think outside the box, or you and your team. So you probably had a team of people that were just like, I'm not going to listen to anybody else's fears. That's one thing. A lot of times what we run into is people will make us try to take on their fears when we're trying to step into our purpose and into our passion. But what you displayed right there was, okay, well, the doors are closed now. How do we capitalize on the fact that now everybody's online, or the fact that people are getting into the TikTok craze? You made people feel welcome at a time when people felt really isolated. And I think that's what brought people in. When you invite people in, you make them feel like they are part of the process. And I know Shayla asked me another question. Don't kill me, Shayla. I'm sorry, but I'm just like,
yeah, that's okay. You're going. Keep going.
When you demonstrated that, even though your life completely changed, you make the best out of it. You do the best that you can with what you have, but you also don't take on other people's limiting beliefs and their fears. You did the best possible thing that you could do, and that was bring other people in, and now you make them feel powerful, and now they might feel that they can do exactly what you did. This is awesome. I'm just awesome.
I want to add to what you're saying, because I think it's really important to fill yourself with fill your soul and have people, or get people around you, even if it's just like this, watching a podcast, or seeing if you're not around those people. Because for me, I was lucky. I had an amazing team. I have an amazing business partner who's the creator of the show, who, quite frankly, I wouldn't have done all of these things if we weren't in lockstep and stepping into some of these risky things. But we were in lockstep. And then our entire team, again, mostly women, but a lot of amazing men as well too. but the women were the ones at the helm, and they all said, we can do this. We are going to do this. We're going to make this happen. So when you surround yourself with people that think like that, it just adds to the power. Like everyone feeds off each other. Everyone's light feeds off each other. So exactly what you're saying, you got to get rid of the noise and surround yourself with people. When you have the people around you, or you're listening to things or reading things that fill your soul and give you that boost to take that step, that's really important, because you can be very lonely in your vision sometimes.
Yes. And Amanda, I know you have a team now that works with you, and you all, when I think about it, you went from we got $100. That's all we each can invest in this idea. We'll just see where this leads. And now you have a podcast with 35,000 followers. Is it on Facebook? I don't know about the listeners. You can give me, more on your numbers, but just the fact that this idea that your friends like, hey, just try this with me. And you're like, all right, we'll try. We'll see what happens. And now you're on this completely different career trajectory. Do you feel like you're living your passion in this space?
I really do. And I feel like I'm living it in a way that I couldn't have possibly envisioned for myself. So I have a background in theater. I've always been an entertainer, and I've always wanted to do something with that. And I think I was getting to a point in my serving career where I was like, okay, I know that I have these skills and that I have some more to offer from this skill set, but I have no idea where to even go. And sometimes the call that you hear is a literal phone call from one of your best friends who's like, guess what? We're doing this. We're investing $100. We're going to Google it and figure out how to do it. I mean, I taught myself how to edit. We just snatched up social media handles. We started brainstorming. We did market research. We just dove in. And whenever we came to a problem, we worked together to solve it. And, that connectivity with each other, but then also the connectivity that we built with complete strangers who were just instantly drawn to this idea of wine and crime, quippy, kind of silly, true crime comedy show. And when we first launched, we thought, okay, let's record 10 episodes before we release it, make sure we know what we're doing, see what people think of it, do a season, and then reassess. And by the time we even released our first episode, we had several hundred followers on social media who just kind of found us through like true crime hashtags and shared true crime interests. And they were just like, when are you launching? We can't wait. So we thought, okay, I guess we're launching like now. And we just dove in and figured it out. And that was 4 years ago, and we have not missed a week of release since. So it was scary. We had no idea what we were doing. The podcast community in and of itself was so supportive, so helpful. The internet is an amazing place. I think sometimes I think the rug gets pulled out from under you. This was before the pandemic that we launched this, but I was already at a crossroads in my career. A romantic relationship that I had been in abruptly ended. And I just felt like these were negative, quote unquote, experiences that actually, once I released those energies and was able to really focus on serving myself and actually prioritizing what I wanted and trying something new and figuring out my place in the world, like Dr. Z keeps saying, like the doors open in ways that you could never imagine. And I know that I also have so much privilege and I had so much support to be able to do that, and that it's not the same experience for everybody. But, the way that, Melissa, you were saying you built this connectivity around a show that never even got to open in a time when people were feeling so isolated. It's like, if you can build a network, no matter how big, no matter how small, that's going to support you and be on board with what you're doing. That is so powerful when it comes to trying something new and setting a new path. Having that kind of support from your loved ones and other people in your, either professional or personal network is essential. I mean, we had friends and family who were listening from the beginning and promoting the show and putting it out there. And then it just started to build and build and build. And now, hundreds of thousands of people listen. Before the pandemic, we were touring all over the country. We release between 6 and 8 episodes a month. We're, a top earner on Patreon. Like, we have thousands of patrons who get bonus content supporting our show behind the scenes, and the friendships and amazing people that we've met both in the podcasting industry, but also just listeners that write to us and share their feedback and help us become better people. It's just like the most unbelievable experience you could ever. It's beyond my wildest dreams, honestly.
And
So cool.
at what point did you realize, okay, I can walk away from this life and these jobs that don't serve me? Was that scary? Like, do you remember the moment when you said, I'm making this change, I'm taking this full time?
It was really scary. I took baby steps. I left my salaried management position and went back to a restaurant I had previously worked at, where the staff has always been so incredible and so supportive. And they said, okay, you want 2 shifts a week so that you can prioritize the other passions in your life. And I did re-enroll in college for really like the first time seriously. And I am still chipping away at my clinical psychology degree. And I think the combined experience of moving into an industry or I guess a career that we were kind of building specifically for ourselves, and starting to pursue my education as an adult and being surrounded by other adults that are pursuing their education, I kind of ended up in classes and I was like, oh, I'm actually at, 32 years old at the time, 31. I'm one of the youngest people in my classes. There are people much older than me. And that was a really powerful reminder that my timeline is my timeline, and whatever societal pressure is saying, oh, you were supposed to have your undergraduate degree by the time you were 22, that's not real. That's just an expectation that I don't need to meet. And so now I get to prioritize my timeline, the things that I'm passionate about. And if that means I'm slowly making my way through school while also balancing running my own business and the other, personal passions that I have, then that's what works for me. And it's been great.
That's awesome. And Dr. Z, I want to come back to you here. It sounds like it's the essence of this conversation, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Sometimes the things that your strengths, the things that you do best, the things that you love the most are on the other side of that fear, like the fear of giving up what's comfortable, the fear of giving up what you know, the fear of holding on to what feels secure is what's keeping you from really living your most authentic and real life.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that just have the fear of scarcity or look, I'm like, I'm not pronouncing it right. But you know what? They just think that, if I leave my job, then how am I going to make ends meet? But it's like, what if you leave your job and follow your passion? It seems like the money will be endless, because I always say that the doors will just start opening. It's like, once you just put it out there, you know what? I am scared. Or in the instances of, our 2 guests today, Amanda and Melissa, both of them went their paths and did what they felt they needed to do. And then it was just like, I had no idea that it would be like this. But you had to follow. You had to agree to do it first. You weren't going to see that the doors open if you didn't go through the door. You're not going to see the other doors open if you don't open the door and go in the house first. Right? So
Yeah.
You had to take that first step before everything else started to fall in place. And that is just I do always tell people that, you might be scared. It's okay. It's okay to be scared. But what if, people are just like, well, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to do this. Okay, well, you sit there and be unhappy and be miserable. Mm-hmm. Or what the pandemic is teaching people is life is short. Mm-hmm. We don't know that we will have another day. So why not take the opportunity now? It's if it's something that you want to do it now, because we don't know what tomorrow will bring. And that's what these 2 ladies are showing us now.
And that's so true. And Dr. Z, for anyone that's listening, that they're hearing these stories, they're hearing the incredible success Amanda has had, they're hearing the incredible success that Melissa has had, a lot of hard work to achieve all that success, even if you're living in the realm of what feels like your passion. It's still a lot of work living your passion, but it's probably work that you enjoy a lot and immensely, and it may not even feel like you're putting in as many hours as you are because you're invested fully in something you love. For the folks that are sitting at home like, I got that thing I love, but I just don't know where to start. What do you say to those folks that are trying to figure out, how do I begin the process of carving out this life that I imagine? And sometimes it may take years to fully transition, but maybe you just start by finding a little more time to do the things that you want to do, that you really love to do. Instead of putting them on the back burner, you're making them more of a priority in your life.
Yep. I always say start by networking with people that are doing what you think you want to do, because they will be the ones that will tell you the ins, the outs. You know, you can do a little Google search, a YouTube search. Find networks. Meetup.com is a place to meet other people that may be doing what you think you want to do. Like, dive into it a little bit. Maybe you dive into it once a month. Maybe you start to engage with other people. You know, like Melissa was saying, you know, they have the play, and they're, you know, I don't know how you got into being a playwright. I don't know if it was, you know, if you were in front of the camera or in front of the stage or behind the stage, but do a little bit of it, just so that you can see, okay, maybe I do like it, and then slowly and incrementally add it a little bit more and more, you know, just to kind of get your little toe wet, and then you get your calf wet, and then now you're in your waist deep. You can do a little bit, but you have to take the step, because if you don't take a step, you will never know.
Because in a lot of ways, the life you want to live may just be hiding on the other side of fear.
Right. Exactly.
Melissa, I know for you, you said that a lot of like the full-on push you into your passion was, you know, the pandemic kind of changing your professional job situation. Where you are now, do you feel like you're in a place where it's like, I'm not turning back, I'm fully invested in this life I want to live? And do you feel like, I wish I had done this sooner?
I mean, yes, but the life that I'm living right now is, I don't even know how it would have even existed 2 years ago, because the pandemic has absolutely colored everything that we're doing. And it's funny, as Dr. C, you were saying, like, if you want to do something, the thing you need to do is just to start, even if it's just a little bit, but the action of putting energy, moving in a direction of the thing that you want, that will start the things to open up, even if they're little things that become indicators of, oh, this is another direction, this is another direction. And there's new bits of information that will come to you, or people that will introduce themselves. I mean, last summer, when we said we're going to put up a show on the back of pickup trucks, I mean, I was calling car dealerships trying to find people that we were trying to come up with, what do we use for a stage? It's not like we just said, we're going to just put a show up on pickup trucks. It was, we're going to put a show up. It's going to be a concert. We got to keep people safe. Everybody safe. Drive-in. Great. How are we going to build a stage that doesn't cost us $1 million? Wow. Pickup trucks. A comedian was doing something. We figured out. We found a car dealer. We had to start getting creative, but it's not like we just said we're going to do this and we just knew what we were going to do. And I mean, lights, there were no lights. I called a construction company and rented giant lights, like, you know, the construction light. We created stuff out of nothing. And it was because we made the decision first and then took the action to start. And then, like you were saying, Dr. Z, everything just started presenting itself. And Amanda's journey is also clearly like that. She's like, we just spent $100. I love that story. And to start creating things. And then all of a sudden people are interested and they want it. I mean, we didn't know. That's just a snippet of what we're doing. So when you say, like, you know, I am in this life for sure. I am 100% vested. This is what we're doing. And literally every day we're trying new things. We are actively going towards, going to be in a theater next year, which is awesome. And it's totally different than what we expected, but it's even better than what we expected. So that's why it's just a matter of taking steps, because the direction of the path, we're in a path right now that was like completely like, we have no idea what we're doing, but you just keep stepping into it. And then the stuff presents itself and the people present themselves.
That's wonderful. And I want to share a couple of comments. Wendy Isom Mercer says, love this great point by Melissa Jones about how more women are stepping into their power and their passion now. Yes, I agree that it is all about our mindset. And then Karen Yukas says, Shayla, Amanda Jacobson is absolutely amazing. You and I have not yet met, but I love your enthusiasm and commitment to the community. Thank you all so much for commenting. And we have about 15 minutes left or so. So if anyone else, if you have any comments or anything, certainly feel free to leave those and I'll share those with everyone participating today. I wanted to have this conversation because I feel like it's something that people privately navigate, or they may navigate this in their friend circle. But I think beyond our individual friend circles, these conversations are happening for others, and maybe others have those worries and they don't necessarily have someone to have those conversations with. So creating this space for conversation is a way to hopefully, show people that maybe are in this space in their own life, some success stories and some examples of people who did find success in their passion by finding the courage to pursue the things that they love and really go all in a way that has been life-changing and fulfilling. Because not everyone can say, I am doing what I truly love. Like a lot of people just have a job, but not everyone can say, I'm living my passion. I am every day waking up doing something that I genuinely love to do. We have a comment here from Callie Bidego, Dr. Z. I love the networking idea. Absolutely. And it's a lot of times you have to use the resources and the connections you have just to get started. Did that factor in for you, Amanda, in your journey? Just like,
oh yeah,
who do I know?
I mean, that's huge. The way we even built a following in the first place was just by, like we said, we kind of nabbed up those social media handles, and then we're like, okay, our show is true crime comedy and it's called Wine and Crime. Let's find everybody who has an interest in wine, everybody who has an interest in true crime, everybody who has an interest in comedy. We're from Minnesota. Let's find everybody who has an interest in Minnesota. And we just started following and connecting with all of these people, and then following other podcasters and reaching out to them and saying, hey, how did you get started? What platforms do you use? Do you have any advice for us? And then the worst thing that could happen is people just don't respond. I think a big part of it was like releasing some of the fear, avoiding the word should, and just kind of trying new things. I like to think that there's no such thing as failure. Everything that you do is an investment in your growth. And so if you try something and it doesn't go the way that you expected it to, you could pivot. I sit in class next to people in their 50s and 60s and 70s going, I worked in XYZ career forever and I learned so much, and now I really want to pivot and I want to devote my life to helping other people. That's why I want to go into clinical psychology. And it's like, that's amazing. I love that. You invested in yourself, and now you're at a point in your life where you know exactly what you want to do, exactly what your skill set is, and how you want to give back to your community. Do it. I just think that that's super powerful and amazing.
That's awesome. And Dr. Z, I think sometimes, even when you're living your passion, it may take time. Even you, like Amanda, Amanda just said, you may be sending out hundreds of invites to people and maybe 10 show up. Or you may be sending out, and you're wondering along the way, am I doing the right thing? Am I really pursuing my passion? Is this really going to turn the corner? And sometimes it's just about sticking with it long enough for your intended audience to find you, right?
All you need is one person. All you need is one person. Because even if you just hit one person, that one person is going to tell somebody about you, who's going to tell somebody about you, who's going to tell somebody about you. And then you have more and more people check you out. But you have to reach out, right? Amanda, it's just like, okay, well, we don't know what we're doing. So we have our $100, but we don't know anything about anything. It was like, how else would you learn unless you reached out to other people? So that is just so cool to me.
Yeah.
Kudos to the person that brought that to you, because I can just imagine you and your other friend just like, well, okay.
Oh, she
to me.
She
Like,
never lets us forget that she's the reason that we have all this.
yeah. I've had people come to me and was just like, so when are you doing such and such? When are you doing such and such? And it was like, okay, when are you writing the book?
Mm-hmm.
Or when are you? And it was hilarious because I was doing trainings at my previous job, and one of my staff, I had a staff of 150 people. One of my staff was like, did you ever think about being a teacher or a professor? And I'm like, no, why? It's like, because you just have a spirit of, you have this, the heart and the spirit of a teacher. Like you can just tell me what I need to do, but no, you're like teaching me, you're guiding me, you're making me want to learn more. And I'm like, you just feel like you have a teacher spirit. I'm like, okay. And then 2 years later, I ended up being a professor. But sometimes people speak life into you,
Mm-hmm.
and they see things for you that you might not have ever seen for yourself. And then when you go and just flip that switch, like, okay, I'll go with it. Just, oh my God, I can't even tell you how many doors open since I became a professor. It's been astonishing. And I never thought about teaching adults ever. It became life-changing. And it's only because a few people told me that's what they saw for me.
And sometimes the things that you do really well, like you're you, and you may not necessarily see them, but then if you ask those people whose opinions you trust, what are the things that I do well, or what is it about me that you think really connects with other people? And you kind of learn about yourself, and sometimes it informs, how you move, and, maybe some of the courses and some of the paths you decide to take. This space came about because literally I had 1 week off in June. I had started here in December, and I was just craving being away from work because I was just exhausted, and it was summer. And so I had a list of people that I wanted to connect with. And the intro that you saw to the conversation, those were people that I had met. Dr. Z, I had met when I had done an interview with her and her husband. Her husband was more of like the talker for the interview, but it was something about Dr. Z where I was like, I don't know, I like her, but I'm not sure. I'm just going to pitch this idea for this conversation to her and see if she'll join me. And I had different conversations with individual women. I just met each one of the people in the intro that week. And they were just people that I had wanted to connect with, some that I knew and hadn't seen in a while, others I had met months earlier. And I was like, I have time this week. I'm just going to go reconnect and see what they're about, because I feel like they have something to teach me. And I had all these individual conversations, and all of the conversations, I thought about it, they all sort of had a similar theme. And everybody was in their own way on this journey to embracing and living their most authentic life. And so I said, what will happen if you bring together these women that are in their individual space in life, taking their individual journey to authenticity? What can come out of that conversation? And Dr. Z joined us to provide some, tools and tips for folks that may be in their own journey and they don't know, am I taking the right steps? What can I do to discover my authentic self? And that conversation sort of spawned the spaces that are evolving every Friday now. And so it's been a great way to connect and get to know people in the Twin Cities and beyond. But at a time when, the pandemic is keeping us apart and we're not able to navigate and connect with people in the same way. But it's been really cool because out of this space, I'm meeting new people. They're meeting each other. They're connecting and networking in the things in the spaces that they're in. And, new people, pop up in new projects and new places. And it's just at the end of the day, like just having the courage to try that new thing. I don't know if this will do anything, but I think it's really cool because my strengths, as I've learned over the years, have been talking to people. People like to talk to me. And I like to create. I like to create physical, tangible things. And I like to create space for conversation. So this is sort of like the embodiment of living what feels the most authentic me, is to create space for conversation with really interesting people to tell their stories and grow. And hopefully those that are listening, even if, they may be in a different place or a different phase in life in their own journey in any of these topics we talk about, hopefully at the end of the conversation, they are in some way pushed forward in their journey. And they know that other people go through these things too. And they hear very real stories that maybe speak to a reality that maybe they've experienced too. Maybe they didn't go to college, but maybe for them, they're figuring out, well, what can I do? And to hear a story like Amanda's, or for somebody that is, older and they're like, oh, I should have done all these things when I was younger and my time has passed, to hear a story like Melissa's saying like, hey, I'm taking and embracing the totality of my life and I'm living it to the fullest and I'm 50 and I'm proud of it. And you could like, you're a Tony nominated producer on Broadway. And that's awesome. And you never would have been there if you didn't have the courage to live the passions and the things that you love. And so I think it's so important to continue to have these kinds of conversations because, it's true. And I think Dr. Z can speak to this. Sometimes in our immediate circles or whoever your circle is, sometimes there may be people in it that don't see your dream that you have for yourself, or they don't see the vision that you have for yourself. And it doesn't mean that you stop pursuing that dream or pursuing that goal or that vision or whatever you have for yourself. It just means that person just may not understand where you're going. Yeah. So it's important to know yourself and learn who you are so that you can continue on the path that feels the most like you, even if your path looks unfamiliar to those that you hoped would understand and still be there as you figured it out. Right, Dr. Z?
Yep. I always say it's like it's short and sweet. It's like your passion, your path, your goal, your life is for you to live. Anybody else's opinions, their fears, it doesn't matter because you're the one that has to live it. So if somebody's saying, trying to put their fear on you and put their limiting beliefs on you, it's my life. I'm the one that has to live with the consequences, good or bad, of what happens. That's it. Like, bottom line, that's it.
Yeah. And then really sometimes you run into those folks that really they make you afraid of seeing your success because your success is a reflection of everything that they're not or everything they didn't achieve. And so they can't celebrate where you are from a place of sincerity because they on the inside are feeling everything about, I didn't pursue this thing that I didn't do. I didn't live this life that I could have lived. And it's really nothing about you. It's really, on the inside and what they're feeling about themselves. Well,
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah, go right ahead, Melissa.
I was going to say, taking any step, even if it's a small step, is something, and it's really important to just do anything. And I will say, taking the bigger the step, the more, oh crap, I'm doing this kind of step that you take, the more shift you experience. Because 3 years ago, I could never have told you that I understood now what I know about change and taking risks and doing things. But I'm telling you, the bigger the risk and the more you want to do it, when you take that step and it feels like you're stepping off of a ledge and you do not see the path in front of you and you just know it's going to be there, it will be there. It might be a little shaky because you're scared, but it will be there if you're really committed to the thing you want to do and you take that leap. So I have to say, whether it's small or big, but when you take those big leaps, just like do them because there will be a huge shift for you. And you'll go on the other side, wow, I didn't realize it was as simple as it was simply making the decision to step beyond the fear and do the thing.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Amanda, any final words from you?
Yeah, an exercise that I think really helped me along this journey is something I learned in school about releasing the word should. Like, think about the word should as a violent word, take it out of your vocabulary. If you can replace it with the word could, what could I do? What could I accomplish? Or if you're thinking of, changes in your circumstances, what would I do? I really think that sooner than you might anticipate, some sort of little path or guiding light will present itself if you just kind of get out of that, well, I should have started this 10 years ago. What should I do next mentality? It's like, what could I do? And like really, really think that stuff into existence. And like both Melissa and Dr. Z have said, the path will rise to meet you.
That's awesome. And Dr. Z, you want to give us the final word?
Yes. So be fearless. What we talked about today was just being fearless in following your own path. My main thing is look at what the possibilities are. Don't look at the bad things that can happen. Look at the great things that can happen. Because when you focus on things being great, then you're flipping the energy. You're flipping it's like your thought process. When your thought process is focused on positivity and focused on positive energy, then good things are going to happen. Good things are going to happen, and that's it. Because I can go on for 2 hours.
This is a much longer conversation.
Yes. Well, I am so grateful that you all spent a little bit of your Friday night with me. Callie Bodego, one more point. She says, great point. Words have so much power. They surely do. And I hope that everyone watching, if they tuned in for a few minutes, if they tuned in for the whole thing, hopefully something that they heard today pushed them forward in their individual journeys as far as living their passion and living their most authentic life. I am going to talk quickly before I let you guys go. We have a couple of other topics that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. Next week, we're going to be talking about Dr. Z is joining us again on... Let me take my ticker down so you can see all the info. That would help. Yes, Friday, September the 10th, we're going to be talking about the cost of personal growth. And we kind of touched on that a little bit tonight, but it's just the idea that when you are in this space of trying to grow and live your most authentic life, you have this feeling that maybe some of your friends and your closest folks are going to be with you on this journey, but not everybody can grow with you. And so there's kind of a mourning process in that where, you know, you're thinking of everything you hope that person or those people would be there with you for. They're not going to be able to go. But to know that that path you're on is still a great path. Maybe you just need different people in this phase of your journey. So Dr. Z will be joining us for that, as well as Jessica Horton, life coach practitioner, life strategist speaker. And we'll also have Shelby M. Wagner, personal development Catalyst podcast host for Catalyst for Conversation. And then the following week, we will be joined by a group of awesome folks that basically do what I'm doing, which is creating space for conversation. And so we're just going to be talking about why and the space that they create and the value that comes out of creating space to have conversation. So Jasmine Stringer will be joining us for that. She's behind the hashtag Share the Mic campaign, and she's a speaker, lifestyle expert, and author. Jesse Ross, he's a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant, executive coach, international speaker. We also have JC Lippold, a community mover, wellness preacher, and Erica Jones, a diversity, equity, and inclusion leader, and a yoga and meditation teacher. So some awesome conversations coming up, and I will be posting all of them in my timelines in the weeks to come. Thank you all so much for joining us for Let's Chat, Changing Careers, Feeling the Fear, Doing It Anyway. If you ladies could hang around, I'm going to wrap up the broadcast here, and then I'll catch you behind stage here in just a second. Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.
Bye.